Welcome to CSU's EMEC Tooltips. This video is making a right-hand cutting lathe tool. The first step is setting up the bench grinder. The first step in the setup of the bench grinder is to set the angle of the bench. To do this, set your protractor to 65 degrees, that is 25 degrees depressed from the horizontal position. Then place the protractor against the bench and change the angle of the bench until the indicator on the protractor is vertical. The next step in setting up the bench grinder is ensuring that the gap between the bench and the wheel is no more than 1/8 of an inch. We are now ready to grind the lathe tool point. To begin grinding the lathe tool point, set the tool blank on the bench grinder at an angle of 25 degrees to the right side of perpendicular to the grinding face. Turn on the grinder and move the tool back and forth across the grinding wheel, maintaining the 25-degree angle. Be sure to avoid the radiused corners of the grinding wheel as you grind. Cool the lathe tool frequently during the grinding operation. I recommend every 3 to 5 seconds. You can tell when you need to cool the lathe tool by observing the droplets of water on the tip of the tool as you grind. When they begin to rapidly evaporate, it is time to cool the tool in water. Be sure to swirl the lathe tool in water, don't just dip quickly. Failure to adequately cool the tool will result in tempering the steel and ruining the tool. Continue this operation until the entire surface of the tool is ground flat to 25 degrees downward and 25 degrees right-hand side of perpendicular. It's a compound angle, as shown. Be sure to avoid grinding or damaging the cutting edge of the lathe tool. It is essential that this edge remains sharp and untempered. The next step is grinding cutting relief angles on each side of the tool tip. To do this, hold the tool parallel to the surface of the stone at an upwards angle of between 60 and 75 degrees. Then rock the cutting tip of the tool away from the grinding wheel by about 10 to 15 degrees. This will allow you to grind a smooth, flat cutting relief angle on each side of the tool. Remember to cool the tool frequently during grinding to prevent overheating. The goal is to grind away the cutting relief material until the cutting relief reaches but does not grind into the cutting surface of the tool. This grind will continue until all of the material on the side is ground away. Here you can see that the grind is almost complete. Note that there is a gentle curve to the shape of the grind. This is acceptable. Here's another view of the same process from your perspective. Note how I use my finger to maintain the proper angle of the tool. Also note how the tool is parallel to the grinding surface. It is very important to frequently cool the tool during grinding. Here's the same operation on the other side. Once you've completed your cutting relief on one side, you will want to grind a matching relief on the other side of the tool. Note that the completed cutting relief goes all the way up to, but does not go into, the cutting edge or the cutting tip of the tool. The final step is to hone the tip of your lathe tool. To do this, retrieve a hone from the drawer beneath the grinding station, along with a tub of cutting oil found in the lubrication station. The tub you're looking for has a red lid with a brush sticking out the top. Apply a generous coat of oil to the hone. Next, hone the 2 cutting relief angles that you ground in the previous step so that they are smooth and flat. It is important to hone the tool such that the cutting tip and edge is sharp and free of nicks and burrs, as shown here. The desired result is a tool that is sharp and smooth. This will result in the highest performance tool, the longest tool life, and the best surface finish on the parts that you will make. This process takes several minutes. Next, you will hone the compound angle of the cutting tool, gently rocking the tool back and forth, taking care not to dull out or apply a curve to your cutting tool tip. The goal here is to flatten the tool face, as well as add a small radius to the point opposite the cutting tip of the tool. Next, we want to add a small 1/32 to 1/64 radius to the sides of the tool that make up the cutting point. To do this, gently rock the tool back and forth on the hone on each side of the cutting point, taking care not to dull out the cutting point itself. Once you've completed the radii on each side of the cutting tip, your lathe tool is complete. Expect to spend 15 to 20 minutes honing the surfaces of your lathe tool. The finished tool should look like this when it is complete. Note the sharp, clean cutting tip, cutting edges extending back from the cutting tip of the tool, and the small radii on the sides of the tool that make up the cutting tip. On the wall above the grinder, as well as in your lab manual on page 78, you'll find a drawing of the lathe tool. Compare your tool to the drawing. There is also an oversized aluminum example changed to the grinding bench that you can look at. Do not grind the aluminum example. If you overheat your tool tip while grinding, you will discolor the steel as shown here in this next clip. This is an extreme example, and any discoloration indicates that your tool has been tempered and will not cut well. You must start over on the other side of the tool or with a new tool blank if this discoloration occurs. Thank you for watching this tool tip.